Okay, this is Brother Wolf, and this is HS 345, Section 4. And tonight we have Group 3, and they are going to be presenting on Case 3. So I will turn it over to the group. Whenever you guys are ready, feel free to start.
Okay, so like Brother Wolf said, we did case number 3, cost allocation. So a little bit of background information on the case. It starts with, a medical center, Rio Grande Medical Center is a full-service, not-for-profit acute care hospital located in Rio Grande, Texas. There's a 100,000 square foot section of the hospital that is devoted to outpatient services. 80% of the space is used for an outpatient clinic, and the other 20 is used for a dialysis center. Recent growth in the volume of the outpatient clinic has created a need for a 25% more space than is currently being assigned. Because of the outpatient clinic is so much larger than the dialysis center, the decision was made to keep the outpatient clinic in its current location and move the dialysis center to another location to free up space within the hospital complex. Now both facilities need to come together to allocate the new costs for their plans. So our question number 1 was, is it fair for the dialysis center to suffer in profitability from the move, even though it had nothing to do with it? Or so, even though they're basically the ones that got kicked out. So I think that it is not fair that the dialysis center has to suffer in profitability because of the move they had to make for a short period of time. I think that the clinic needed more space, and so the dialysis center had to move, but at the very least, the dialysis center and the clinic should have to share the cost of the new expansion. They have to take out a mortgage to buy this building, so it shouldn't fall just on the dialysis center. Question number 2 was, should the dialysis center be charged actual facility costs for the new location? I do not believe that the dialysis center should be charged actual facility costs. If they're going to be forced to move, they should not have to pay extra money for the mortgage for the next 20 years. This should be, at the very least, split between the two, the clinic and the dialysis center, but should probably be split through the whole hospital like it is currently, where each department is paying for some part of it. Question number 3, even if the true cost concept were applied to the dialysis center, is the $400,000 annual allocation amount correct? And if the true cost concept is applied, what would be the allocation in the 21st year after the mortgage had been paid off? No, this is not correct because you are calculating how much the building actually costs for 20 years, not for the whole time you're going to be in the building, which could potentially be forever. If the true concept was applied after 21 years, they would still have to pay a facility charge because it would pay off what the specific space was worth. So they would still charge them the amount of the building. Josh, do you want to do number 4?
Yep, I'm going to right now. Thank you. All right. So basically, in this question, it's going to talk about an interesting concept. And it says the revenue that the dialysis center receives from patient use of the pharmacy appears to be passed on directly to the pharmacy. That is, the dialysis center books $800,000 in annual revenue, but then is charged $800,000 for the drugs used. And the question is, should this revenue be counted when the general overhead allocations are made? And to go on, it says, to make this point, John discovered the pharmacy supplies used for dialysis actually cost the pharmacy $400,000, and the pharmacy makes a profit of $400,000. Go ahead, next slide. All right. As I kind of analyzed this, I don't think that this additional 800,000 should be added to the dialysis centers, to their overall revenue, because it's not true revenue. Yes, they make 800,000, but then it is being divvied out directly back to the pharmacy. So having said that, if the dialysis center didn't have, they'd subtract that 800,000 from the revenue and from direct costs, and it would produce the 1.9 million total revenue, and then 1.3 million in direct expenses. Basically, that's really important, because if you do subtract that 800,000, that will then lower their general overhead costs, which will lower the amount they'll have to pay. Next question. Okay, question number 5. This is the big one. It asks in this question basically to create a new cost allocation for the Rio Grande facility, because with this new building being built, essentially with this building being built, it was going to add an additional $100,000 to the overhead cost to the dialysis center, and which would raise it from 300,000 to 400,000. And basically, the way I did this, I'll kind of explain it. Just as Ali said, the clinic was growing so fast, and it needed all that extra space, so it pushed out the dialysis center. Again, them needing to build that extra building. Now, the important thing that helps answer this question is that when the clinic expanded, they expanded 25%, and it was 25% all the way across. They gained more revenue and everything. However, the case study stated that the dialysis center would not gain any extra patients. Everything would stay the exact same. So they would have to, get a $100,000 raise on their facility costs, which would be very detrimental. Ali, can you go ahead and go to the spreadsheet, please? There we go. As it shows here on the spreadsheet, under the initial allocation it's under DC, which is dialysis center. It had them at a negative $70,000 profit, which in the case study was talking about the manager, wanting to get his bonus, wanting to be able to receive that his initial income, was worried that he wouldn't be able to because of these additional overhead costs, which he wouldn't in this case. So as I began to develop an allocation plan to help match the expansion, I decided, as you can see in the alternative allocation, if you compare that with the initial allocation, I took $100,000 from the dialysis center and put it onto the clinic side on their general overhead costs. This being said, if you compare the numbers to the alternative allocation and then before without the expansion, it actually puts them about right there. They have the same amount of profit the dialysis center does. Their percent of revenues is 1.1%. However, the important part is because the clinic grew so much, it was able to, and still adding that extra $100,000 in cost to help make up for them pushing out the dialysis center. Their percent of revenues is basically the same. We go from before the expansion at 21% and after the expansion at 20.5%. Their net profit is still higher. This way, allocating it this way allowed for both facilities to be profitable, for both facility managers to receive their additional incentive pay, and in my opinion, it was the most fair and equitable, while still allowing both to make profits and not putting too much on one side. And so that's kind of how the allocation went through. You can go ahead and go back to the slide if you'd like, Ali. Thank you. Well, I just want to thank you for listening to our presentation. We were excited to do it, and I hope you were able to learn something good.
Excellent. Very good job. I'm not going to comment a lot on kind of the content. I want to leave that for the discussion board or the chat room. So I think you've already posted your slides, and I'll post the recording, and we'll kind of continue the thinking and the working through this in the discussion board. Any last-minute comments or questions?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Well done to both of you. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
You too.